Gig Harbor is one of those places that looks like the easiest place to live in Washington. It's green all the time. The streets are clean. It's safe. It's got that small town feel, great sense of community. All of that stuff is pointing at Gig Harbor and like, you should live here. So for those reasons, that's why I'm going to make this video. And we're going to touch on a few things here. So when you look at how Gig Harbor actually works, a very clear picture shows up. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Let's touch on a couple things. We're going to talk about the real costs that stack up behind that purchase and why that monthly number is where people really get caught. The next thing we're going to talk about is the commute times and that bridge and the traffic and what it's like to live a day-to-day life here in Gig Harbor, especially if you're a commuter. And then we're going to go into how to make your strategic move in 2026 so you do it right the first time and you don't get caught someplace that you shouldn't be. We got to find you the right pocket that is best for your life. Hey everybody, my name is Darren Rivers. I am the Northwest Realtor and I am managing broker of the Rivers Group. We have a team of 7 of us that help hundreds and hundreds of families just like you relocate here to Gig Harbor. And part of our job is to be your guide, is to help provide you with all the information that you need to make the best decision for you and your situation. There are a lot of people that fall in love with Gig Harbor, and I am one of them. I've lived here for over 30 years and we've raised our kids here. But something that you should know are the 12 things that we're going to go through right now to make sure it's right for you. So point number 1, it's going to be sticker shock. It really is. Gig Harbor's become popular. It's become a destination place to live, and it's the demand and the lack of supply, of course, has caused those prices to go up. So Gig Harbor is a premium place to live these days. It's going to cost you a bit more than if you were in other surrounding areas. And, you know, you look at it and it's got all the features that you would want as far as safety and cleanliness and good school district and a pretty easy commute to, say, Tacoma or the airport, or if you need to get up to Kitsap County and work at the shipyard, something like that. It's really easy access to the freeways, and it's easy access to those industrial areas, and it's just a quiet, nice, safe place to live with that small town feel. But because of all those things, your price tag goes up, and depending on the exact pocket that you're in, depending on the condition of the home, of course, all of those things can really make a difference in what your monthly budget looks like. So what am I talking about as far as your monthly pocketbook? Well, it depends on what your down payment is on in your mortgage rate and all those things like that. But what people look at is the sticker price of the house. And in January of 2026, you know what the median home price in Gig Harbor was? $930,000. So we're approaching just, almost $1 million for the median home here in Gig Harbor. Now there's going to be pockets where it's going to be a little less expensive. Key Peninsula is definitely less expensive. Parts of Gig Harbor North are less expensive. But there's also some very expensive homes in those areas. Those areas do have waterfront or view properties or acreage, any of those, and that's obviously going to add to the price point. Another thing that you should think about is just what your other monthly bills are going to be. You're going to have things such as homeowners insurance, your utility bills, water, electricity, power, internet, all that sort of stuff. So all of those things come into play for sure. In fact, the city of Gig Harbor actually publishes water rates. So you can look at those and see what the different rates may be for the different times of year and calculate those into your budget. The interesting thing for me on all of this is average time on the market is way higher than it was just a few years ago. I mean, we're at like a month and a half, approaching 2 months of average time on the market now, which is very much a normal market. But us as a society got really used to the normal market of the COVID days when average time on the market was like 4 days with 15 offers on every house. So the crazy thing to me is average time on the market has gone up tremendously. You're usually not in a bidding war. They happen once in a while, but not very often. Usually you're the only offer, but yet housing prices haven't dropped. They've stayed kind of flat, but they haven't dropped. I mean, our median home price in Gig Harbor in January was $930,000. Trust me, there is no dip there. So here's what you really need to do before you commit to a house, and especially a certain price tag, is you need to get an overall view of what comes comes with that price tag. It's more than just your mortgage payment. Of course, that's like the big one. So you need to check with your lender, say, hey, based on this house and at this price and at this interest rate, what am I looking at on a monthly payment? But you have other things. You have property taxes to consider. You have insurance to consider. You have all of your monthly utilities to consider. You have your commute times to consider. How much gas is it going to take for you to get to work? You have a bridge toll. All of those things come into your monthly budget, and that is all tied to your house and your house payment. So you need to examine all of that just to make sure that you are in your comfort. Just because somebody can tell you that you can afford on paper a house worth X amount of dollars, that does not mean you want that kind of monthly payment. So let's transition into part 2 of this. That is going to be your property taxes. And I alluded to this earlier, property taxes are going to be a part of your budget. Sometimes people incorporate it in their mortgage and pay it off monthly. Other times you have the option of paying it all in one lump sum or 2 lump sums, just depends on what you choose to do. But again, a lot of people just have it included in their monthly mortgage. So obviously it's something you have to budget for. Now, a lot of people assume that we have a pretty easy tax consequence here in Washington because we're one of 7 states without a state income tax. However, that might change. There was something recently passed that says it's called the $1 million tax. If you make more than $1 million, they are going to try to tax you. Now, that is tied up in the courts. In fact, a lawsuit was just filed today. So who knows what's going to come of that, but that was the proposal, is that there's going to be a state income tax if you make more than $1 million a year. This is my personal editorial on this. If that gets through, it's just a matter of time before they start lowering that bar and they start collecting an income tax from everybody. But it's tied up in the courts as of today, and who knows what the outcome of that is going to be, because our Washington state constitution says there shall be no state income tax. So, what's going to happen with it, I don't know. And even if it does get through, at least at first, it's going to be if you make $1 million or more a year. So that doesn't affect a lot of people. But again, my 2 cents, if they do that, that is just getting their foot in the door, and who knows what's going to come next. But for right now, Washington has no state income tax. That does not mean that we are not taxed everywhere. The things you need to consider as far as taxes go, if you're buying here in Gig Harbor, or really anywhere in Washington for that matter, but we have a very high gas tax. We're one of the highest in the country for sure. We have a pretty high sales tax, and it varies depending on what county and what city you're in, but you're looking at around 9%, give or take a little bit depending on what jurisdiction's at. And then we have our property tax, and our property tax is just less than 1% of the assessed value. That is generally lower than what the market value is, so you can kind of judge it on that, but that is not a fixed number. There are things that come into play that are going to adjust your tax every single year, and guess what? They typically go up. So what is your tax here in Pierce County? It is just about $8.40 per $1,000 of assessed value. And here's some things that can make that fluctuate. A, tax assessor comes through and says, hey, home prices have gone up, so your property value is higher. Boom, your property tax is higher the next year. The other thing is we have a thing called levies. So a lot of people vote on different things such as school improvements, public services, safety services, things like that, to give levies, to give money to these different groups so they can, build a new school or build a new fire station. And if those pass, they add those to your property taxes and they go up also. So every year, your property tax is likely going to increase a bit, and depending on what is on the ballot as far as a levy goes, it may go up even a little bit more. Now, one good thing about this is we are not alone in this. It doesn't matter where you buy a house, you're going to have property tax, you're going to have the same sort of issues, the same sort of costs that come into play. So we're not unique in that regard. It's just something that you need to keep an eye out for here if you're looking to buy a home here, that we do have a property tax, but it's a little less than 1% of the assessed value. There's places like Texas where it's like 3-4% of the assessed value. So, the government always gets their money from somewhere. Right now, we do not have a real state income tax. As I noted earlier, that might be changing, but maybe not. Other places have state income tax and they have lower sales tax. I mean, it doesn't matter. They're getting your money from somewhere, and from Washington, they tax us on a lot of things. The housing tax, the property tax seems pretty fair compared to most parts of the country, and we're one of 7 states without a state income tax, at least for now. So let's make a transition now. Commute time, Comanero's Bridge toll, choke points that you'll find in Gig Harbor that you may not be aware of, because when you look at a map, it looks pretty simple, right? You have Highway 16 going through the middle of Gig Harbor. Most of Gig Harbor is pretty accessible to Highway 16, but you are definitely going to hit some choke points along the way that if you're new to this area area, and if you don't look at the area during those rush hour times, they may come back and bite you. So let's first talk about the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It has a bridge toll. Now, they built a second bridge 17, 18 years ago now, which really helped alleviate traffic. I mean, I'm telling you, before that, rush hour was a nightmare to get across the Narrows Bridge. Now, that's much easier. I mean, you get some slowdowns once in a while, but for the most part, it's way, way, way easier. And I'm happy to pay the toll, not deal with that kind of traffic, but it's a toll. So if you're driving across that bridge every single day, you are going to get charged every single day for one way of the trip. The coming back is free. If you have a good to go pass, which are little stickers or sensors mounted on your car, it's $4.50 to cross the bridge. They also have a toll booth that if you're only going through once a month and you don't want a sensor in your car, you can pull over, go through the toll booth, and it's a little over $5. They charge you a little bit. The other thing that might surprise you is just how our traffic has built up and the pockets of Gig Harbor where those traffic slowdowns tend to occur, especially during rush hour traffic. And I have a few that I'm going to go through right now and name. One is the Olympic exit. If you're coming from Tacoma, go over the Narrows Bridge and you get off at the first main exit, which is the Olympic exit. You want to make a left, so you go through the intersection of Olympic and Point Fosdick. In my opinion, that is the worst intersection in Gig Harbor. If you are there at all during rush hour, it is crowded. It's full. It might take a couple light cycles to get through the light. There's a lot of shopping right there. There's gas stations. There's medical facilities. There's a lot going on right there, and it's the first main exit. So it gets you out to Willachet, Rosedale, all that stuff. It's busy. I've done videos of just that intersection before, and it's busy. In my opinion, that is a bottleneck during rush hour time. Another place that might surprise you is Highway 16. In the old days, there was the backup at the bridge, but once you got over the bridge, it was smooth sailing all the way up to Bremerton, Silverdale, up into Kitsap County. Now, you get across the bridge just fine, but when you start coming into Gig Harbor, you get close to that first exit, like I talked about, the Olympic exit. During rush hour, especially in the afternoon, you have some slowdowns. Now, this is not Los Angeles traffic. This is not Seattle. This is not big city stuff. You have slowdowns. You don't really have stop and go bumper to bumper for an hour, but it could easily add 5, 10, 15 minutes to your commute, as opposed to if you were just smooth sailing at 70 miles an hour. So keep that in mind. It is there. We have grown. The more we grow, probably going to get a little bit worse, but hopefully that's a slow process. It's not too much of a deterrent right now, but it is something to factor in. Another thing I want to touch on is that Purdy Bridge. So if you live over on the Key Peninsula, so Key Peninsula is still part of Gig Harbor area. It definitely has a Gig Harbor mailing address. It's all part of the Peninsula School District, which includes Gig Harbor. So you get all the benefits of Gig Harbor and the lower price tag of living out on the Key Peninsula. The problem is you got to go over the Purdy Bridge to get there. And it is a small little 2-lane bridge that during rush hour gets backed up. So yes, you might be spending $100,000, $200,000 less on a house, and that is a big deal, but it can really add some frustration to your commute times if you're going through the Purdy Bridge and that light down there in Purdy twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, it gets backed up for sure. There is an absolute delay there without a doubt. Just be prepared. Make sure when you're looking, try it during the times that you would be using it to see what your day-to-day life would really look like. And the last thing I want to touch on as far as traffic and commutes and all that stuff is we have quite a few roundabouts now, and roundabouts have been great. Like, I get used to them. They're pretty easy to navigate in my opinion. But if you're new here, or if you have not been through one and you're not really sure which lane to be in to go to which exit of the roundabout, it can be confusing and it can cause some problems. The great thing about roundabouts is they're actually pretty safe. There's no more like T-bone collisions anymore, right? There's no more head-on collisions. Yes, there's some little fender benders because somebody doesn't know what lane they should be in and merge into the wrong lane. That happens. No high-speed T-bone wrecks. So from a safety standpoint, they're great. Once you figure out how to navigate them, they're pretty easy, but I guarantee you're going to come across some knucklehead that doesn't know what lane they're supposed to be in, and it screws it all up. So just keep your eyes wide open when you're going through them, and you should be just fine. And number 4 is going to come to some of the house systems itself. And if you're coming from a big city, Los Angeles, San Francisco, any kind of big city environment, and like I came from the Los Angeles area, so when I moved up here, they told me my house was going to be on a septic system. I was like, what is a septic system? So these are some systems in homes that you should be educated about and know about, because in all likelihood, there's a very, very good possibility that the home that you're looking at is going to have a septic system. So how do you know? How do you know if you're going to be on septic or on sewer? Well, the city of Gig Harbor is actually quite small. The geographic area of it's quite small. The population is just a little over 10,000 people. people, it's quite small as well. But Gig Harbor area in general is much more spread out. We have about 40,000 people, many more square miles. That is all kind of in the Gig Harbor mailing address and what we consider to be here in Gig Harbor. If you're in the city limits, you're going to be on public sewer. If you're outside of the city limits, you're going to have a septic system. That means you have your own sewer plant in your backyard. All right, so I'm not going to go into all the physics behind a septic system or anything like that, but basically all the water, gray water, black water, all the wastewater from your house gets pumped out into or gravity will take it out into a tank, and then it gets pumped out into what's called a leach field, a drain field. The great thing about this is you don't have a sewer chart. The bad thing about it is it's something you have to maintain. You can't build over your septic field. You shouldn't have any big trees or roots. Like grass is fine, but you don't want any big root structures going down into it. You don't want to drive over it, things like that. And the other thing that you got to be mindful of is what you put down your drain, because it goes into that tank. So you just want to put, the organic material. You don't want to put a bunch of bacon grease, and you don't want to, put like baby wipes and things like that down into your septic tank, things that don't decompose very well. Maybe a few food scraps here and there, shower water, wastewater, all that sort of stuff. That's totally fine to go down. You just don't want to put all those foreign things down there. And you got to maybe pump your tank once in a while. I've lived in my house 20 years. I've had my tank pumped once. So we use it really efficiently. It works great for us, but it's something you got to be mindful of. And just so you know, whenever you are buying a house with a septic tank, here's the rules that we have, especially in Pierce County. Gig Harbor is in Pierce County, saying that the seller must have the septic tank pumped. If needed, the septic company will come out. If it doesn't need to be pumped, then there's nothing to pump, but they'll come out and evaluate it. It needs to be pumped. They will have an inspection done, and then the health department will issue what is called an RSS, which is a report of system status, just to let you know that the system is functioning properly. So when you are buying a house, you have official word that everything is in good working order. That RSS and things like that is good for a year. So if somebody had it done and 13 months go by before they sold the house, well, they're going to have to do it again. But if it's within that year, then it's good to go. You get up into Kitsap County, those records last 3 years. So it depends what county you are. Every county has a little bit of the different rules, but just know that anywhere here in the area, if you're on a septic system and you're buying a house, we make sure it's in good working order before you take ownership. And that'll transition into our next topic number 5, which is going to be your water. If you're in the city, you're going to have public water. A lot of places outside of the city limits still have public water. Just because you're on a septic system, oftentimes, most times, you're going to be on public water as well. Fire hydrants out there, the whole 9 yards. And there's different water jurisdictions, from Washington Water to Peninsula Light manages some water areas, things like that. But you could also be on a well. These tend to be properties that are a little further out. These tend to be properties that are a little bit larger in acreage, and they can have a shared well or an individual well. And again, just like the septic systems, it's things that you should be aware of. Make sure that it's inspected before you buy, get a water test, get a flow rate, make sure everything's in good working order. Now, Western Washington, for the most part, wells are pretty good. They have pretty clean water. They don't run dry, things like that. But it's, this is your water source. This is a big part of the house. And if that goes south, well, then your property value goes south tremendously. So we just want to make sure that you're good to go with that. And the great thing with a well is you don't have a water bill, whereas these other places, you have a water bill, and that's going to come into your monthly budget, especially if you have a big lawn and you're using lots of water in the summer to keep it nice and green. That's going to add a lot to your water bill. If you have a lot of hardscape and you're not using much water and it doesn't differentiate much between winter and summer, well, then it's not that big of a deal. Whenever you're looking at a house and you're thinking about writing an offer, make sure you get all these utilities down to a science as to what you have. Are you going to have sewer? Are you going to have septic? Are you going to have public water, or are you going to be on a well? Do you have all electricity, or do you have natural gas fed to the house? All of that stuff comes into play. You can get an idea of what your monthly bills are going to look like and take that into account, because it's not just your mortgage, it's all the other monthly bills that come with your day-to-day list. Section number 6 now, and this is if you're one of those people that want to move to Gig Harbor because of all the water that we have around, all the water activities, and your dream is to live on the water in a waterfront house. Well, that is fantastic, but there are some rules that you're going to have to be aware of, because it is not very simple to modify your property or add things like a dock, things like that. So let's dig into that stuff right now, because these are big things. So we have something called the Shoreline Management Act here. So it really limits what you can do on your waterfront property. Now, if you buy a home that is grandfathered in and it's only 15 feet from the waterfront, you don't have to move your house, obviously. It's good to go. But if you want to remodel the house or expand it, the likelihood of you being to go out sideways and expand the waterfront part of it is probably zero. Now, you could probably go up. You could probably take the house and expand it away from the shoreline. But if you want to expand it closer to the shoreline or further along the shoreline and you're within the setbacks, that's probably not going to happen. If you're buying a piece of land and you want to build a house, you have certain setbacks that you have to be from the waterfront. So you want to get what exactly that is for the exact jurisdiction you're in. And the last thing is a dock. Now, if you have an existing dock and you refurbish it, repair it, things like that, yeah, absolutely. If you want to add a dock, I mean, this is an extreme, but I always tell everybody it takes an act of Congress to do that. There's a lot of processes you have to go through, a lot of permits. I have a friend of mine that just did this. It was very, very expensive and it took him 3.5 years to do it. He was able to do it, but it took a lot of time, energy, and money to put in a brand new dock. So if you are looking at a property to build a house, or it already has a house on it and you just want to do some projects to it, remodels, expansions, add a dock, things like that, I would absolutely encourage you, whenever you write an offer on that house, to include what is called a feasibility study, which gives you a negotiated amount of time, 30 days, 60 days, whatever you guys negotiate, to do your research, to make sure you can do with that house or that land what you want to do. And if you can't do what you want to do, you can simply notify the seller that the feasibility study was not to your satisfaction. You don't have to prove what it was. Just say it wasn't to my satisfaction, and you back out of the deal and you get your earnest money back. The only thing you're really out is your time and your effort, but at least it's not going to cost you financially. Section number 7, well, let's talk about insurance. Insurance is becoming a little bit more of an issue than it ever used to be. You know, insurance companies have paid out huge claims with recent natural disasters, fires in California, the repeated hurricanes in the Southeast, tornadoes in the Midwest, you know, all that stuff. So they've just been bleeding money out paying all these claims. So they're super, super cautious on who they write policies for, what areas they write policies for. I mean, there's some insurance companies that have just pulled out of California completely. They just won't write a policy down. We don't have that here in our area, thankfully, but we do have things that come into effect that will influence your insurance possibilities if you're in a flood zone, you know. So thankfully we have the theme of flood zone maps. We will be able to tell if the property you're looking at immediately is in a flood zone or not, but that's something that would absolutely come into play with your insurance, and if they would require you, if your mortgage company would require flood insurance or not. Another thing is the age of your roof, and many companies will not write a policy if you're buying a house, your roof is 15 years old or more, which is crazy to me because there's some roofs that have 50-year guarantees or lifetime guarantees, like especially metal roofs. But you know, the insurance companies are very wary on this, and some of them, if roof is more than 15 years old, they're not going to write a policy. So what do we do so we know what you're getting into? We now have a new form, a new contingency that we can put in the offers just to make sure that the insurance that you are looking at is affordable and that it can work for you and your budget. And if it doesn't, then you can back out of the deal. I also have a great resource. One of my best friends is an insurance broker up here. He's my own insurance agent. I've referred many of my clients to him. I'm going to give him a little plug even. H&K Insurance, his name is Adrian Heidel. He can give us quotes and estimates on houses if you're looking at, so you have an idea of what you're looking at. And there's lots of things that come into play as far as your own personal history and previous claims as well, but he can give you an idea of what you're looking at on any particular property, so you know if you're getting into something that will work for you or if there's just too many red flags. Topic number 8, and this is totally changing gears, and that is our weather. If you are moving from out of town and you are not familiar with Western Washington or our weather patterns here, you've only heard rumors about it, well, it's a good time to know what the facts are. So here's the facts. We are not nearly as wet as people think. We get less rain than Miami. We get less rain than Chicago. We get less rain than Boston. We get less rain than New York City, but we have gray. In the wintertime, it is often gray. Sometimes it's kind of drizzly, it's kind of wet, not a lot of precipitation actually coming down, but things are just kind of damp. And we're gray a lot in the winter, from like October to March. It's gray. In fact, in January, it's cloudy 73% of the time. So we don't get a whole lot of sunshine in the winter. Now let's flip that. In the summer, we are the best place on earth, in my opinion. It's about 80 degrees every day. We have relatively low humidity. We have no bugs. It is just perfect. It's so perfect. So we have to go through the gray months and kind of the wetness to have the green foliage all around and the beautiful summers. But it's an urban legend that it rains all the time. That is not the facts. We rain less than a lot of places do, but we are wet and gray a lot in the winter. And that's just how it is. Just a tidbit here. How much rain do we get a year? 37 inches. So Juneau, Alaska gets 90 inches a year. 90. We're at 37. All right, topic number 9 is going to be our school system. We are in Peninsula School District, and what school your kid is assigned to is based on your address. We have 2 high schools. We have a handful of middle schools. We have a lot of elementary schools. Some people are very particular as to what school their kids are going to go to. So you just got to make sure that you're looking at houses within those area maps. And you can go to the school district website, Peninsula School District. They have a map of the district of what schools are for which areas. There are variances that you can apply for and go to a school outside of the one that you're actually assigned to. And in fact, some people live in Kitsap County and apply for a variance to send their kids to Peninsula School District. They do this because it's way cheaper to buy in Kitsap County than it is in Gig Harbor, but they want benefit of the school district. There's no automatic anything like that. You have to apply for the variance. I know people have been successful at it, but I wouldn't bank on that. I would do your research. But if you're looking here in Gig Harbor and the Peninsula School District, just make sure that you're in the area that you want. Now, the rating is pretty much the same for all the schools. Some may vary a little bit. You can look at niche.com, see what the various ratings are, but overall, it's going to be pretty uniform across Peninsula School. One more thing with this, do not rely on the listing. I actually had a client that was looking to purchase a house, and in the listing, they said that this particular house was assigned to a certain middle school. And as it turns out, the listing agent was wrong. They made a mistake, put in the wrong school. And so verify. It's always, trust, but verify. Verify all your information, especially if it's important what school your kid is going to go to. Make sure you're looking in the right area. Make sure that all those things, because that would be a pretty awful surprise to spend, what's the median home price? $930,000. Spend almost $1 million only to find out kids going to a different school than where you were planning on it. Trust, but verify. Point number 10, and this is something that we kind of touched on earlier, is the taxes, right? So for right now, we have no state income tax. So thankfully, whatever your income may be, you don't have to factor in an additional state income tax. Now, like I mentioned, there's things that are in the courts right now about implementing one. You have to make over $1 million. It wouldn't start for 2 years, and then there would be an income tax. However, in my opinion, if that happens, it's just going to graduate down. It would, eventually, if you made, and I'm making up numbers here, but if you made $750,000 or if you made $500,000, and eventually it would just apply to everybody. That's just my opinion. Now, it may not even go into effect. Like I said, this is going to be fought in the courts. The lawsuit was filed today. We will see what the outcome is. But for right now, we're still one of 7 states without a state income tax. Hopefully that maintains, because we're taxed a lot of other places. We have a pretty high gas tax. We have the sales tax. We have property tax. There's alcohol tax. There's tobacco tax. There's tax on everything else. So hopefully we don't have to implement a state income tax here in Washington as well. Keep your eye on it, especially if you're in that high dollar income range and you're making over $1 million. Well, then it would affect you if it goes into effect here in the next year or 2. Point number 11, and this is the lifestyle in Gig Harbor is not necessarily the same no matter where you are. Now, it's not a huge area, and the demographic tends to be pretty uniform no matter what area you are in. Downtown, Gig Harbor North, Artendale, Rosedale, Fox Island, it's all very uniform on the demographic, but your lifestyle is going to be very different depending where you live. So really examine what kind of life you want. If you're downtown, everybody's closer together. It's a little busier. It's where all the community activities take place. So you can be super involved. You can just walk downtown, be involved in all those things, from the community activities to the restaurants to the breweries to the coffee houses to the shops, all that sort of stuff. If you're out on the tip of Fox Island, if you're out in the far reaches of Artendale and Rosedale, you might be out in the rural kind of area. You might have 5 acres. You may not even be able to see your neighbor. Your lifestyle is going to be very, very different depending where you live. Figure out what kind of lifestyle you want, and then we can help point you in the directions of what neighborhoods might be the best fit for you and your family. It's not just one area, right? I mean, they do blend together in many ways. You can have the same lifestyle on Fox Island as you do in Rosedale, depending depending where you're at. But if you just don't want to be caught off guard with this. You really want to examine what you want your daily life to look like so we can find the right pockets for you. And this carries over into everything, right? This carries over into how long it takes to get to the kids' school. This carries over into how long it takes to go grocery shopping. Or if you're a person that goes to Costco quite a bit, we only have one Costco here in Gig Harbor. So if you're at the tip of Fox Island, it's going to take you 35 minutes to get to Costco. Whereas if you live in Gig Harbor North, you might be 30 seconds from Costco. Really examine what your day-to-day life wants to look like, and then we can help figure out that right pocket for you. Topic number 12, which is what kind of rules are you going to have to play by depending where you live? And this is going to apply to some of the things we talked about earlier. Are you on the waterfront and you have to abide by the Shoreline Management Act and the EPA rules and all those environmental things? Are you in an HOA where you are restricted with what you can do with your house on your property? Now, there are many levels of HOAs. Some are very, very loosey-goosey. You can virtually do anything. Some are very, very strict. And some, you can't even put your motorhome or your boat in your driveway for more than a day. So depending on what neighborhood you're looking in, we can get you those HOA rules. It's a part of the contingencies that we write in. So you can read those rules to make sure that they would fall into your lifestyle before you commit to a house. Look at the area, look at the house, look at the neighborhood, look at the HOAs, look at the CCNRs, all those things for your particular pocket where you're looking. And that way you can determine if it's a good fit for you. Okay, everybody, those are 12 things that you should really look at to see if you should avoid Gig Harbor or if it might be a great fit for you or somewhere in between. I want you to be as well educated as you can be about making a decision that is potentially the biggest investment of your life. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions of dollars. Super important that you are super well educated on what you're getting into and you have your eyes wide open, because there's nothing worse than a bad surprise. My name is Darren Rivers. Again, I am the Northwest Realtor and I am managing broker of the Rivers Group. There are 7 of us total. We would love to help you out. All of my information right down here. So give me a call or send me an email at any time. And also right over here, we're going to put up a QR code, and that is the relocation guide to Gig Harbor. So it's got several pages of all the things that can help educate yourself about Gig Harbor. Feel free to download that, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.